So The Boys Season 2. I finally got caught up with this series. It took a while, but I got there. I know I haven't really had that many videos these past few months. I'll try to have some more videos over Christmas break. Because this season's been out for a while, I will be including spoilers. You've been warned. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start. Let's start with the plot. So the plot of this season primarily involves the boys living as fugitives and trying to build a legal case against Vought and clear their names. They have to sneak around and stay hidden, adding a level of espionage to the series. There's a new superhero named Stormfront who joins the Seven, and there's more to her than meets the eye. It's eventually revealed that she's a Nazi, which is an interesting idea that's not really been explored before. This season also introduces the idea of soup terrorists, who are powered people that are blatantly evil. Both Vought and the boys want to take them down, and it's interesting to see the two have a common goal for once, even if it's not really explored that much. Meanwhile, Butcher now knows that his wife is alive and will do anything to get her back. This plotline helps create a strong character arc for Butcher, more on that later. The Deep's plotline continues from last season, and it's hilarious. The climax of this season was insane. It was suspenseful, exciting, and action-packed. The scene where Kimiko, Starlight, and Queen Maeve beat the crap out of Stormfront was a much better women empowerment scene than the one in Endgame. Don't get me wrong, I love Endgame, I love that scene, but this one was better. The climactic scene where Butcher almost attacks Ryan but then decides not to perfectly reflects his character arc. Something I forgot to mention in Season 1 was how good the action in this show is. Whether it's soup versus soup or human versus soup, they always find creative ways for the soups to use their powers. The finale of this season wraps up the first two seasons very well and makes me excited for Season 3. If I had to include some negatives, I would just say that the plotline about Stormfront being a Nazi took a little too long to develop. At the beginning of the season, it seems like the main conflict is going to be the boys and Vought versus super terrorists, and then that slowly changes to being the boys versus Stormfront. Let's move on to characters. Let's start out with the eponymous boys. Karl Urban continues to kill it as Billy Butcher. He has a solid character arc this season, and we see him dealing with his anger issues. At the start of the season, he sees his wife as the only person who can help him with his rage, before he eventually learns to control the rage himself. Towards the beginning of the season, he punches Huey for getting in his way. However, towards the end of the season, he chooses not to attack Ryan even though Ryan accidentally killed his wife. We also learn more about his past. We learn that he had an abusive father, which made him the gruff, closed-off person he is today. We also learn that he used to have a younger brother who he was very protective of and channels that protectiveness onto Huey. Speaking of Huey, he also has an interesting character arc this season. At first, he wants to become the leader of the boys, before he slowly realizes that he's not cut out for that life. He does get pushed to the side a little bit this season in favor of Butcher, Homelander, and Stormfront, but he's still an interesting character. We also get to see Frenchie and Kimiko get closer this season. We finally get the backstory of what happened to Mallory's grandchildren and why Frenchie was responsible. This revelation adds a lot of depth to his character. We see how much he cares about his friends and why he's so wounded. We also learn a lot more about Kimiko. We see how strong her bond to her brother is, and we see her get closer to the group. I really love her and Frenchie's dynamic and can't wait to see it expand in Season 3. Mother's Milk does get pushed to the side a little bit this season. That being said, he does get a little bit of character development. We learn that he gives in to his obsessive-compulsive disorder because he controls so little of his life that he's super controlling of the handful of things he is in control of, if that makes sense. Let's move on to the Seven. Anthony Starr is still great as the sociopathic Homelander. In this season, we see him try to genuinely connect with another person for the first time. We also get to see him become manipulated by Stormfront as she takes Madeline Stillwell's place. Speaking of Stormfront, she is a great new character. We get to see what would happen if a Nazi became a superhero. She sees Homelander, who's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man, as the perfect leader for her cause. We see her slowly manipulate Homelander and slowly wrap him around her finger. I love how at the beginning of the season she's portrayed as a stick-it-to-the-man rebellious type, before her true inner nature is slowly revealed. Annie's arc also continues and becomes more fully realized. We get to see her playing double agent and become fully committed to bringing Vought down. Erin Moriarty and Jack Quaid still have really good chemistry, and I love their scenes together. Queen Maeve also becomes a much more fully realized character. She learns to stand up to Vought and Homelander and to protect those she cares about. While Black Noir remains a mysterious ninja assassin, we do get some glimpses of who he is underneath. There are scenes like the one where he plays piano or the one where he cries that show that he does have a softer side. The Deep and A-Train also have interesting arcs. The Deep continues his journey of redemption by joining what's basically a cult. The Deep is one of my favorite characters because even though he's a misogynistic douche and a terrible person, he's such a doofus that he's fun to watch. A-Train doesn't have as much screen time this season, but his character still works as an allegory for professional athletes. We see how far he'll go to stay in the Seven, going even so far as to betray Vought and Homelander. The only other significant main character in this season is Ashley, played by Colby Manifi. She takes Elizabeth Shue's job after her character was killed off last season. We get to see her operate under Homelander's thumb, and get to see how good Homelander is at threatening and intimidating people. She does get a little redemption arc at the end when she lets Maeve off the hook. This season also features a lot of fun, interesting, recurring characters. Chantel Van Santen plays Becca Butcher, a mother who will do anything to protect her son. Her and Carl Urban have really good chemistry, and their dynamic helps develop the arcs of both characters. Giancarlo Esposito brings a very strong presence with the character of Stan Edgar. Then again, could you expect anything less from Gus Fring? He manages to play a normal human who manages to talk down and be condescending towards a sociopathic Superman, and Esposito sells every word of it. Kanji Miyashiro is Kamiko's brother, and also a so-called soup terrorist. His character has a lot of personality while also serving to flesh out Kamiko's character and reveal Stormfront's true nature. Shawn Ashmore feels very, very miscast as Lamplighter. It's ironic that he played Iceman in the X-Men movies, and here he plays a dark analog for Pyro. While the idea for the character is interesting, a porn-addicted soup who feels some remorse for the things he's done, Ashmore doesn't quite convey the apathy or the sarcasm that the character needs. It kind of makes me wish that they had cast Aaron Stanford instead. Victoria Newman is a senator who is against both Vought and the Soups. However, at the end of the season, we find out that she is a soup herself. This reveal was a little easy to see coming, but I still can't wait to see what they do with it in Season 3. Ryan Butcher, who's the illegitimate son of Homelander and Billy Butcher's wife Becca, also has a strong character arc. Towards the beginning, he wants to be a soup like his dad before he slowly realizes how terrible of a person his dad is and ends up siding with Billy Butcher. Let's talk about the themes a little bit. In this season, superheroes change from being an allegory for celebrities to being an allegory for politicians. They create situations that will get people on their side and then use publicity and advertising to rile people up and create support for themselves. It also continues to critique capitalism and commercialism, but also explores what happens if the products took the power away from their creators. Most of these ideas are communicated very well and complement each other nicely. There's a nice sense of verisimilitude with all the themes and ideas that this season presents. Each of them plays a specific role in the series and helps build the story and/or the characters. That being said, the season does continue to be a little preachy with its commentary on religion. While it's not as bad as the first season, it can still be very unnecessarily heavy-handed. So overall, while this season has its faults, I think I might like it more than Season 1. It continues the story, develops the characters more, and presents a lot of interesting ideas. I think my favorite episode was probably episode 4, Nothing in the World, just because it builds up the relationship between Huey and Annie, who are two of my favorite characters. I'm really excited for Season 3. I hope the virus didn't delay Season 3 too much. I'm gonna give it a very positive review. So yeah, that's it. That's my thoughts on The Boys Season 2. If you want to see my thoughts on The Boys Season 1, here's the video right here. Overall, thank you guys very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.